Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are and wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I am Brad Franklin, a creative content writer here in Chesterfield, and I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. One of the fun things about doing the show is sometimes you get to do things that are about current events, and then sometimes you get to talk about things that are coming, and then this one is a little bit of both. We've got JC Poma, who is the Executive Director of Sports, Visitation, and Entertainment, on to talk about sports tourism, visitation, bringing people to Chesterfield. First off, JC, how are you?
Brad, thanks for having me. It's great to be here, great to be in the county, and it's an exciting time all around to be talking sports, entertainment, tourism. Yeah. It's the fun stuff.
For sure. And it's funny because your background was sports, my background was sports. We'll get to all that stuff in a second. But no, you're right. And I'm very glad to have you, very glad to kind of talk through some of these potential. I think we're gonna talk about a lot of things here where people maybe they think they know, but they don't maybe have a good real grasp on the sort of vast totality of it, right? The way that these kinds of things can impact the community. But before we get into all that, speaking of backgrounds, let's talk about yours. What brought you to Chesterfield? Because you've only been here, I feel like you've been here like 37 seconds at this point.
2 months now.
2 whole months. What brought you here, and how is it that you became the Executive Director of Sports, Visitation, and Entertainment here?
Well, I'm stoked to be here, and I love all things the Richmond region. I grew up here in the region. I played sports here in the region, and I've seen it grow.
Right.
But first and foremost, what brought me here to Chesterfield County was our leadership.
Yeah.
I've worked at Richmond Region Tourism for the last almost 7 or so years.
Okay.
Doing sports, bringing events here to the county. I remember when sitting outside of River City Sportsplex back in 2016. When we were doing, all the different public information sessions to tell that story,
right,
and seeing our Board of Supervisors, our county administration, all the way down to the levels of parks and recreation, economic development. Our administration is committed. I'm so grateful that they've entrusted me with this.
Right.
But it's our administration. It's the forward thinking. We have so much opportunity here.
Right.
In so many different areas for that creates so much value for our county, brings a quality of life piece to our constituents, and it all ties together. And you said it best. There's so much coming down the road,
right?
And the blend of tourism and quality of life for our constituents go hand in hand.
Right. Now, in terms of the way this all works, for folks who maybe aren't necessarily as sort of well-versed in this, you might not know, but tourism is actually a fairly big business. Now, granted, we're not like Orlando, right? We don't have a Disney, though we are getting a Lego, which is kind of fun. Though now that I think about it, Lego's not going to have we'll worry about that down the road. But the tourism in Chesterfield is actually a pretty big business. There's almost $540 million basically in visitor spending this past year, up from, I think, 480 some in the 5 years earlier. That equals out to essentially 5 cents on the tax rate. So that's $26.1 million. You're talking nearly 6,000 jobs, $150 million in wages, essentially. So it's already a thing here. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about sort of the way things are, because when you think about all of the different events that happen in Chesterfield, now a lot of those events right now are sports related, right? Tournaments, that kind of thing. I think there were like 250,000 attendees.
Yep.
River City by itself had I think an impact of almost $280 million, some of that range, since 2018. When you look at all of these numbers that I just kind of quoted off and the reality that is on the ground, what do you see? What's your biggest sort of takeaway from the way things have been sort of going for the tourism and visitation side of things?
It's been great.
Right.
And look at where we are right now. And we keep talking about the potential for growth, and we have so much potential for growth. But that said, you look, and I was pulling some statistics last week. I think we were the 8th largest municipality in the Commonwealth in terms of visitor spending from tourism.
Right.
And that's why you mentioned River City Sportsplex, and looking at that over this 5, 6, 7 year span, looking at when we kind of acquired River City Sportsplex to today, the growth we've seen.
Right.
And you're right, it is sports tourism, but you also look at sports tourism is the gateway to the county,
right,
in one way.
Right.
And so you mentioned 252,000 people that came to River City Sportsplex last year, and for sports tourism. But I also think those are 252 or whatever the number exactly was that we get to market to.
Right.
It's a very specific audience. We have the capabilities to be in front of this visitor.
Right.
And we have so many things to do in the county.
Right.
Everywhere, all across every district, all 5 districts, there's something to do for the constituent and the visitor.
Right.
And it's our job to get them to these businesses.
Right.
So I think when you're looking at those numbers, the $535.9 million in visitor spending in 2021, and that data lags a little bit, so we should be getting in the next month or two the 2022 data, which I only expect to go up.
Right.
But you look at that, and that's impacting our county businesses. That's people's quality of life. Those are people who wake up every morning, go to work because they love what they do. And some of it's small, locally owned businesses.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Some of it, but that is what tourism, and we get to go out and market to these people. Mm-hmm. And so trying to be really very impactful, very targeted in who we market to, we're gonna do all of these different things in the tourism world, not just sports tourism. Leisure travel, as I call it.
Right.
That's the biggest element of travel.
Right.
But sports tourism is the biggest driver of event travel.
Right.
And we get to, again, be very purposeful in how we market to those.
Right.
But we have so much to do here in the county. Yeah. And in the 2 months that I've met with so many groups, so many different folks in parks and recreation everywhere, mm-hmm. I'm amazed by what we have in this county. I think it's something like, I don't want to quote it exactly, but the amount of riverfront acreage we have is unprecedented.
Yeah.
That makes us a true outdoor recreation destination.
Absolutely.
And we're going to look at building not just sports tourism assets in the sense of maybe diamond or rectangular fields,
right,
but river access.
Right, right.
We get to bring now people who are outdoor enthusiasts
mm-hmm.
to Chesterfield County.
Yep.
They're going to come and spend money in our restaurants, stay in our hotels. And so I think when you hear that word visitation in the sports visitation and entertainment department, it's very purposeful in that we have so much opportunity to attract all types of visitors and create opportunities for our constituents here in the county. You
mentioned gateway to the county. I think it's a really good way to look at it, because if you think about the people who are coming for these sporting events, they're, like you said, there are so many there's a wide range of things that you can offer them, but a lot about who they are, at least in the sense of sort of what are some of the things that they're looking for. And not only are they coming to events that are obviously hosted here, but they're going to spend money while they're here. And it's such a great opportunity to not only support the local economy on the grand scale, right? We mentioned the 5 cents, I think it was, on the tax rate. But then when you think about what that translates to for people who own their own businesses, and I know for a lot of people, sports is not necessarily the thing it is maybe for you and for me, but you got to be mindful of the way that sports can drive. As you mentioned, it is the driver. It is the thing that will bring these folks here. And so when you think of trips by day, trips by night, where are they coming from in terms of, like you said, it starts with residents, and we sort of build that out in terms of that leisure travel. So before we get into like the how of it all, I want to start, what do you think needs to happen in order for us to get to where we want to be in terms of really kind of, what's the best way to say it? It's harnessing essentially what we've got here and basically taking us forward. What do you think has to happen in order for us to get to where we want to be?
Well, small plug here. If I haven't reached out to you yet, or I haven't met you yet, how to harness that is our people.
Right.
And the partnerships we have in this county, I say at the grassroots level of sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think when I look back on my Richmond Region tourism days, how we were able to attract these huge lacrosse and field hockey tournaments, soccer tournaments, to River City Sportsplex, to Horner Park, to Stratton Park. Mm-hmm. And I say those other complexes because we're just talking about other people in other areas of the county.
Right, yeah.
But why we were able to attract and retain these tournaments, yes, as customer service and our people, but as our grassroots organization. So when you know a field hockey tournament, the Panthers Field Hockey Organization here in the county.
Right.
When you go out and recruit a field hockey tournament and you're doing it hand in hand with a local organizer who's going to, put 20% of that tournament is their clubs and affiliated clubs into a tournament.
Right.
That helps us win these tournaments.
Right.
But I always, I look back on my high school days and sports days, and I was going all over the country at my dad's bill to find a place to play in college.
Right.
It's those few and far between athletes that you see on social media that get to get all the attention in the world.
Right.
But when you have these tournaments here, our athletes are getting recruited in their own backyard. Their parents aren't spending money to travel all across the country.
Right.
They're staying in their own bed. You
Right.
can't. The value of that is so hard to describe, but there is a value.
Yeah.
And so that plug of, if I haven't talked to you, you are what makes sports tourism thrive.
Right.
Whether it's soccer, field hockey, lacrosse, we want to hear from you. We want to partner with you. We want to hear what drives your organization.
Right.
Because we know facilities do that. And we're going to be very purposeful about how we look at our facilities in the future, very purposeful about amenities needed, what types of fields, what types of spaces we need. And you're the reason we're doing this.
Right.
And so that I want to meet you. I want to hear from you. I want to grab coffee. Let's talk soon.
Yeah, that's great. Now, in terms, you mentioned customer service. That's always been such a focal point for this entire organization. And it's and I know that this sounds like, organization speak or whatever, but like it really does start from Dr. Casey all the way down. Like that idea of the first choice community and the idea of, delivering that customer service, it really does translate so well to this entire sort of genre, so to speak. When you come to think about like the way that the events are run, the way that not only the way that they come together, right, in terms of the personal relationships, but then the way that they're actually run. In your opinion, what are the next steps? Like how does the county really put together what it's got and use that sort of momentum to take it where it wants to go? From a planning and development standpoint, what do you think needs to happen in order for us to really, like I said, harness that and take those personal relationships and really build it out? What are the next steps?
Well, we're doing a great job, and that customer service factor that I use the word retain. That's when I started at Richmond Region Tourism 7-8 years ago. There was a stat in the slide deck that I know is going to be involved in attaching to this, and it was something like, let's just use round numbers, 400 destinations across the Commonwealth, across the United States,
right,
that were involved in sports tourism. That's not just River City-esque sports. That could be indoor, outdoor, whatever it may be.
Right.
2 years ago, when that deck was updated, so let's say 5-6 years later, it was almost 900 destinations across the United States that were being very purposeful about sports tourism.
Right.
So when River City was built and when we acquired River City, we were one of the few complexes of that size on the East Coast, let alone across the United States.
Right.
Now there's many.
Right.
Now that does not mean you don't hold back.
Right.
We move forward. And
right.
Parks and Rec, first class here.
Right.
We're looking at the amenities needed on site to attract. We're adding 4 more fields to River City to put us even in a new territory.
Right.
But to really think about that future, we have to start thinking about what we're missing for our constituents first.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, build it out.
Build it out
residents out. Right?
Absolutely. It's residents first. And I'm spitballing here, as I say, but let's look at a study and do we have enough diamond fields for our constituent usage?
Right.
And if we don't, then it's a tourism asset too when we develop those.
Right.
And we may have enough diamond fields.
Right. No, I see what you're saying though. That makes sense.
We're going to be very purposeful, but we have the staff to do it. Part of it is getting them here, and then we're keeping them here, and we're keeping their visitor spending in the county, at our hotels, at our restaurants, at our attractions.
Yeah, because that's the reality too, right? Is that a lot of these things, these events and things, they're going to happen
somewhere,
somewhere,
regardless.
So why not have them here? Because
absolutely.
I know we like to talk about regional cooperation and that kind of stuff, but we would much rather have those visitors come here, spend their dollars here, than to just have a tournament here and then go someplace else to spend, to go eat, to go for entertainment, whatever the case might be. It's if we can offer all of that in one place, then we essentially have become the one-stop shop that we always hope to be.
Yep, and regional cooperation is at our core,
right?
And so you look at the great things Henrico County is doing, and Henrico and Chesterfield are very aligned in how we're looking at sports tourism.
Right.
Dennis Bickmeyer, great friend who's leading the same charge over in Henrico County.
Right.
Well, they're building right now a very well-known indoor event space, primarily focused on basketball and volleyball.
Right.
Does that serve our constituents too? Absolutely. And when the visitor knows no boundaries.
Right. That's true.
And I think that's a really important thing to denote. And so let's say it's an already I use the word occupancy, 80% full occupancy weekend of hotels. They host a basketball tournament. Well, even if that tournament's hotels are not in Chesterfield County, guess what it does? We call it compression.
Right.
It presses people out all over the region.
Right.
So just because the one team or a group of teams may not be staying at a hotel on Midlothian Turnpike,
right.
Well, it's now filled. It compresses people towards Midlothian Turnpike.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's, when they're doing something great, it's benefiting Chesterfield. And when River City is hosting something, it's benefiting the other jurisdictions in our region. And so, again, being very purposeful in how we're aligning and what we're looking at, but it comes back to our constituents. If we need to look at something that makes our athletes better, sports and athletics is a quality of life piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
You and I know it. I mean, it's a part of our DNA.
Yeah.
And that is why I'm here.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be here without this team, without our leadership.
Right.
And we're going to do it the right way. I promise you that.
I want to toss in this follow-up, and then I want to get you out of here on one other one about sort of what's coming up. But in terms of the big picture and in terms of where the county wants to go, do you get the sense from your research, from talking to all of the different folks you've talked to, and again, I know you've been here, just a couple months, but the visitation piece is obviously, so critical, whether it's directly sports tourism or whether it's just folks visiting in general, but the entertainment side of things, because it feels like to me that there's a real opportunity for folks to, there's a lot of things that are on the ground right now, and there's obviously things that are going to come, but I'm curious on the entertainment side, what are the kinds of things because that's also something that can really benefit residents as well, right? When you're making the opportunity for those venues, for those kinds of businesses and things to sort of come to the county, what's your sense of what that looks like, and how does that sort of translate for not just people who are going to spend their time here and then go home, but then also for folks who this is home for?
Oh gosh, they go hand in hand,
right?
And that's why we're focused on it. Mm-hmm. And you look at our economic development team. I think we all know this through announcements like Lego. And
they had a pretty great 2022.
Oh my gosh!
For sure.
Every time I turn on the news,
it was crazy.
Garrett and Jake and Matt and the rest of that team, again, first class. You keep hearing this customer service first class, but everything goes hand in hand. Sports is a form of entertainment.
Right.
Music is a form of entertainment. The Lake Project, a form of entertainment.
Right.
Bowling, sports, riverfront, outdoor enthusiasts. Mm-hmm. We have the largest state park in the Commonwealth right here in Chesterfield County.
Yeah.
And everything is a form of entertainment for a different constituent, for a different visitor.
Right.
And so we're going to be very purposeful in how we market our assets. Mm-hmm. We're going to redevelop and relaunch Experience Chesterfield to benefit the visitor and the constituent. We're going to tell everyone what's in our own backyard. When we're excited about what's in our own backyard, friends and family travel, it translates.
Yeah, that's great.
So again, we have these assets. We're going to tell our story. We're going to work with your department, tell that story, because it benefits. Everything is a form of entertainment.
Yep.
And it's just whether it's music, sports, whatever it may be, we're going to do it to how we do things in this county. Yeah. First class.
All right, last thing. We are recording this on Thursday, July the 6th. It'll go live on Wednesday, July the 12th. But I'm just curious, what kind of things are coming up at River City? Because I feel like every time I turn around, there's some monster event, some huge thing, bring in however many people. What you got going on?
Oh, gosh. You're right. Every time we look, every weekend, every day. And I think what's great is, I pulled some of these numbers with Parks and Rec, but, we had close to 5,000 rentals last year. That may be one field on a Tuesday night and that field again on a Wednesday night for a soccer group. But I think it was around 250 groups, unique groups rented River City last year. Right. So every time you go out there, there's a different type of sport out there.
Right.
We had women's professional football out there this past weekend.
Oh, cool.
We had Legends Lacrosse, a huge 145-team lacrosse tournament 2 weeks ago that utilized both Horner and River City.
Okay.
This is kind of our slow period.
Yeah.
Who wants to be on turf in July?
Yeah, that's true.
In the middle. And then it really ramps back up. And I think one of the things I love most about sports and why we have recovered so well from the pandemic is we don't rely on one type of traveler and one season of travel.
Yeah,
look at soccer at River City. from the end of January to the first week in April, we have a huge, and that's again thanks to local partners, the Strikers, et cetera, Club Champions League, the Kickers, a huge soccer tournament.
Right.
So in the winter months when I don't want to be outside, there is a soccer tournament at River City.
I like being outside in the
I do
winter,
too, actually. But some huge soccer tournaments.
Yeah, I got you.
Then, that goes right into some field hockey events.
Mm-hmm.
While it may slow down right now, you get to the fall, from Labor Day weekend to the third weekend in December, we don't have a weekend without a tournament rental.
Wow.
That speaks to our team.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm just getting here. Our partners, our team, Parks and Rec, Richmond Region Tourism. It's an asset.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to fill the asset. We're going to grow the asset. And we're going to make sure the visitor and our constituents spend their money and positively impact our businesses here in the county.
Well, JC, it's an exciting time, obviously, for the county. Exciting to have you on board. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast and talking about all the different things. And I'm sure you'll be back in the not too distant future to talk about more. So appreciate you coming on. Thanks, man. All right. Make sure you check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's at Chesterfield VA. And on Instagram, it's Chesterfield, Virginia, all one word. And you can search our Facebook page. Just search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Now, also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, or wherever it is that you get your shows. And if you're so inclined to give us a rating review, we'd greatly appreciate it. As always, a video version of the show is available on the YouTube channel as well as on our website, chesterfield.gov/podcast. That's also where you can submit feedback anytime, make suggestions, or just reach out to us. You can also watch the show on WCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7, on the weekends at noon. That's Comcast Channel 98 and Verizon Channel 28. Lastly, you can check out chesterfield.gov/connect with us to find out a number of other ways to connect with Chesterfield County. My thanks to my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Teresa, Bonifas, and all the good folks from Constituent and Media Services for all that they do. And my thanks to you for joining us today. So, from all of us here in Chesterfield, thanks again for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care. From blogs to podcasts, and I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Newsletters to alerts, social media, the latest community news.
Welcome to the latest installment of This Week in Chesterfield.
How to get in touch, and everything in between. If you want to know about Chesterfield County, our Connect With Us webpage has you covered. Chesterfield.gov/connect with us. Connect with us, your source for all things Chesterfield.